Welcome everyone to our webinar. My name is Levente and today I will talk about Better DevOps Automation for Jira, a new app from Midori. And in case you haven't heard about Midori, let me just get started with a few facts about us. We've been on the market for more than 10 years now as a dedicated Atlassian Marketplace developer. We currently hold a Gold Marketplace partner status and serve more than 7,000 customers worldwide from small startups to the largest companies in the world. And today's topic will be Better DevOps Automation for Jira. I will be introducing this new app, which is a DevOps automation framework for Jira Data Center and server as long as it's still a thing. It adds new DevOps triggers to automation for Jira and makes it the center of your DevOps workflow, as it allows you to manage your DevOps automation rules as any other rule in automation for Jira. DevOps-focused automation features already exist for Jira Cloud, but what we're aiming to deliver is to match those features and offer even more for Jira Data Center customers. Furthermore, Better DevOps Automation introduces the concept of Genius commits, which is a more advanced version of smart commits in Bitbucket. Genius commits work with any version control system, not just Git, and give you flexibility in defining your own DevOps commands to use in commit messages. Better DevOps Automation is also ready for heavy workload. Reliability, security, and robustness that are typical requirements in an enterprise environment are top priority. The app also offers ways to track logs and extract and present an audit trail when inspectors are looking at changes in software code. For the agenda today, there's a bit of an introduction to the basics of the app and how to get started. We will look at the DevOps triggers that Better DevOps Automation adds to automation for Jira, and we'll learn more about what this new concept, the Genius command, is. After triggers, we will see what actions you can fire and how to exactly go about creating those DevOps automation rules. And finally, I'll leave you with a bit of a live demo of Better DevOps Automation, showing you how to create a simple rule and how to use it. So let's get started. I know based on what you just heard, you might think, okay, it all sounds good, but what can it do for me exactly? So let me show you a couple of examples and use cases out there that you can use the app for. And actually, there is a lot. Since Better DevOps Automation is fully integrated into automation for Jira, meaning you can combine your DevOps triggers with any of the built-in actions to automate Jira or third-party services. You can implement all these examples and use cases and even more with Better DevOps Automation. And before we dive more into how Better DevOps Automation works, we need to take a look behind the curtains and understand the dependencies behind the app. To build up the DevOps Automation framework, you need 3 apps, all with their well-defined responsibility. So that's how they work together. The DevOps Automation workflow starts with you committing a change to your repository. It could be Git or any other version control system, because Better Commit Policy app that verifies the commit is version control system agnostic. Better Commit Policy is a Jira app that verifies your committed change against customizable rules. And if you don't have Better Commit Policy installed, I recommend watching the introduction webinar for that as well and getting to know that a little bit more. You can also find useful links to the documentation and more in the description below. Now, Better Commit Policy accepts or rejects your commit and passes that along to Better DevOps Automation. A rejected commit can also trigger automation actions, but we will touch on that later. When Better DevOps Automation receives the commit information, it decides which automation rule to start based on the commits received. And finally, Automation for Jira is the engine that performs the automation and makes Slack send notifications, CI/CD tools to run build plans, leave Jira comments, or run a custom script, and so on. So in total, you need these three apps to be installed: Better Commit Policy, Better DevOps Automation, and Automation for Jira. The combination of these three apps makes the powerful low-code or no-code automation framework possible that is all managed at a single place in Jira. Okay, so now we're getting there to learn a bit more how this app works. But let's have a reminder of why DevOps automation is important in the first place and why better DevOps automation will be a key and important role for your DevOps toolchain. DevOps automation improves developer experience by eliminating repetitive steps from their workflow and makes work more fun and less administrative. DevOps automation also helps you avoid human error, which results in more standardized and consistent output. Better DevOps Automation app is not a cumbersome new tool that you need to learn. It's integrated into Automation for Jira that you are most probably familiar with. It means that getting started and using the new triggers require no previous experience or learning curve, and it's easy to start small and then scale up quickly as needed. And normally when you start automating your tools, you install the first cool Slack integration and then another for Jenkins and a third and so on until you have 15 apps to manage. Having better DevOps automation for Jira is like having a Swift knife. You can plug and automate any third-party tool with it, and you can manage just this one app instead of separate apps for all your DevOps toolchain members. And in a large organization, the ability to have an audit trail, system security integrated with Jira user management is a must. Better DevOps automation has been prepared for the enterprise from the get-go and has been tested with exceptionally large data sets in order to ensure robustness. Now let's talk about the things that set everything in motion, the triggers. As mentioned, Better DevOps Automation currently adds 6 new triggers to Automation for Jira that you can use to build your DevOps automation workflow. These are the triggers that the initial version of the app comes with, so depending on when you are watching this video, there might be more triggers added, so make sure you check those out. The DevOps automation workflow starts with a code commit or several commits, a change set. So the first trigger is change set accepted, which will execute a rule when a change set pushed to the version control system fulfills the commit policy and therefore accepted to the repository. This should be used for automation rules that take the whole change set as an input, not an individual commit, and will be triggered only once regardless of the number of commits. A good example is a Slack notification after an accepted change set. The inverse of this is when a pushed change set violates the commit policy and therefore rejected. This can also trigger a notification to the right person. Branch created trigger executes a rule when a new branch is created in the version control system. This should be used for automation rules that take the branch information as an input. It can be combined with an action, for example, to notify the team in an email. Tag created executes a rule when a new tag is created in the version control system. Rules that take the tag as an input can use this trigger, for example, to run a Jenkins build when a tag with a predefined format is created. Commit created trigger is pretty straightforward. It executes a rule when a commit is created. Rules that take the individual commit information as an input can use this trigger. Genius commit created execute a rule when a so-called genius commit is created in the version control system. It's similar to the previous one, but a genius commit can contain certain customizable add commands in the commit message. So if the commit contains one of those, we call it a genius commit. A genius commit can use those custom commands to trigger custom automation actions. It should also be used for automation rules that take the individual commit as an input, for example, to comment on an issue or log time on an issue. And I think Genius Commit and Genius Commands are groundbreaking improvements, so let's have a bit closer look at those. Better DevOps Automation allows you to include commands in your Git, Subversion, Mercurial, or other commit messages that will execute automatic actions in Jira or third-party systems. The concept could be familiar from Bitbucket, which has a similar feature called Smart Commits to perform Jira issue operations. However, Genius commits represent major differences and improvements compared to smart commits. Smart commits have 3 commands to use in total, so those are very limited both in terms of number of commands and in terms of customization. Genius commits open up the endless possibilities of configuring your own DevOps commands. You can have as many commands as you want, and you can make them as simple or as complex as you want. Since you are using automation for Jira to construct your automation rule, you can set up one Genius commit trigger to fire multiple actions, one after the other. You can also use conditions optionally to further control the scope of your automation. In Better DevOps Automation, you can manage your Genius commands on a dedicated administration screen. Here you can find the 11 default commands that are pre-configured for you when you install the app. And you can just go in and select the command to open it up for editing. Here you can edit all the properties of your Genius command. You can give it a name to identify it in the list of commands. You can specify the command string itself to be used to trigger an automation rule. Next is the parameter pattern. Genius commands can have 0, 1, or more parameters, and they can also be optional or required. For example, you can use the @deploy command and require a target parameter, which can either be dev or prod, or use the @build command and make it optional to specify a build plan after the command. Parameters are defined as standard Java regular expressions, which is matched to the part of the commit message which follows the command. The name, optionality, and format of the parameter are all defined by the parameter pattern. And finally, the description field gives you space to explain more about the command for your developers, give examples and further information for your team. Here in this little example, notice that the @build command in the commit message with the LRT, short for long running task parameter. So you can just use the @build command by itself or extend it with an optional or required parameter like the LRT here. This gives you unprecedented flexibility in deciding what a command should do and how it should fit in your DevOps workflow and logic. All right, so after the triggers, let's see what we have for actions. Automation for Jira comes with many built-in actions that you probably already know. You can use any of these actions with DevOps triggers. So accepted commits can execute built-in actions like issue operations, creating an issue, assigning, editing an issue, or linking issues. They can send out notifications, emails, Slack message, a Microsoft Teams message, or send out an SMS, for example. They can automatically release a version in Jira or send web requests, for example, to connect to applications outside of Jira, like your CI/CD tool or code inspection software. Now, if you remember, the subtitle of this presentation says that you will see no-code and the low-code DevOps automations. And so far, these actions were the no-code automation actions, since these can be used easily from the automation for Jira user interface with just a few clicks without technical knowledge. On top of the built-in actions, Better DevOps Automation for Jira adds a run Groovy script action as well. Actions that are implemented through this option is what we call low-code actions. You can prepare your own script with some custom logic to be executed when a commit is accepted or whenever you need to run it. This is useful when there is no built-in action for your use case, or there is one but it proves to be insufficient for what you need, or simply not as smart or versatile as you would need. In this case, you can turn to Groovy scripting, create exactly what you want, and have Better DevOps Automation run it for you automatically. A very good example for this is the comment on issue action when a commit is accepted. So think about it. By default, the comment would be added by the rule actor, the one that executed the rule. This can be a real user or the automation for Jira app itself, whatever is set up. But when you trigger a commit, you want the comment to be added in the name of the committer because that's what just comes natural. You can only do that with a custom script, as no built-in feature allows that in automation for Jira. If that's your use case, look up the corresponding recipe in our documentation, or just use the link below in the video description that will take you there. Now let's look at how you can get started with creating your automation rule in automation for Jira. Once you started with creating a new rule, select a trigger from the DevOps category. For example, change stat accepted. This, whatever is set up in the action for this rule, will only execute if the committed code changes are accepted to the repository. You can see a list of smart values as well there that will be set by the trigger and be available to use in your action. We will see these in more detail in a second. Next up is a condition. A condition is an optional part of an automation rule, but it's useful if you want to narrow the scope of your rule and execute it only for certain branches, certain repositories, to commits by only a certain user, or so on. And the third part is the doer part of the automation rule, the action. As we already discussed in the previous section, you can choose any of the built-in default no-code actions or run a low-code action through your custom script. We already mentioned smart values, which are also a powerful feature to use in your automation actions. In this example, the smart values are used in the email's subject and body. The way to view this is that you had a change set accepted trigger, which set the devops.changeset.commits.size smart value. Wherever you include this in your action, for example here in the subject, when the rule executes and sends out an email, this variable will be replaced with the actual number of commits the trigger change set contained. Similarly, in the body, the individual commit details will show up. Different triggers make different smart values available. There are a ton of options this creates for you to make your actions more personalized, give more precise information, and just be generally more useful for your team. All right, so now let's take a break from the slides and just hop over to Jira to see a few examples of how to create a simple DevOps automation rule and how to get started. Let's see how we can create a DevOps automation rule that will send out a Slack message every time there is an accepted change set in the repository. I also have the Better DevOps Automation documentation opened and the incoming webhooks configuration page in my Slack account in case we need to consult with these pages. But we are starting with automation for Jira. So let's go ahead and create a new rule. From the trigger categories, select DevOps, which will give you all the available DevOps automation triggers that Better DevOps Automation offers at this point. Let's select Change Set Accepted. Before you save it, you have all the list of smart values that you can use in your automation action. It means that these placeholders will be replaced with the actual values when the rule runs. Okay, go ahead and save it. As I mentioned, conditions are completely optional, but there are cases when you want to narrow down your automation rule and make sure that it only runs when certain conditions are met. We are creating a Slack message automation rule here, so we want to make sure that a Slack message is only sent out when there are actual code changes in the repository. And since it's possible to create a change in the repository without changing code, for example, creating a new branch or a new tag, we want to make sure that we only send out a Slack message when there are code changes. So go ahead, select the condition and select advanced compare condition. To know the value that should be compared, just look up the configuration guide in the documentation, and you will find that this is the smart value that you want to copy over into your rule. This will basically give you the number of commits that are accepted within this change set, and you want to set the condition does not equal 0. So the commits are actually there in the change set. Save it and add a new action. Find the Slack related built-in action, which is send Slack message. And this is the place where you want to configure your webhook URL. If you don't know where to start, we have a deep link into your Slack account's webhook configuration page. So just click that to get started. I already have one configured, so I can just go in and copy the URL from here. All right, we've done that. As a Slack message body, we also have a ready-made prepared script for you that you can just go in and copy with this quick one-click copy button and paste it over to your rule. This will just work out of the box. You don't need to change anything in this. It gives all the important information about the commit and all the aspects that are important about the change set. And you can also see the smart values used here that I mentioned a second ago, which will be replaced by the actual values when the rule will run. Okay, so save that as well. Give our automation rule a name and give it a try. Okay, so let's say I have some changes in this repository prepared. Let's add everything and quickly create a commit as a message, and I want to mention the issue that I've been working on and add the message. Let's commit that and quickly push it to the server. Now hop over to Slack and see what happens. There we got the message with all the important information about the change set, the changed file, the mentioned issue, the commit message, and the branch, and the author of the change. Now check out another example in which we will use the @build command in the commit message to run a new Bamboo build automatically. So let's start creating another rule. And from the DevOps triggers, I want to choose Genius commit created this time. This is the advanced DevOps trigger that allows me to use commands in the commit message to run actions. Hit save. And for a new action, we need to communicate with the Bamboo server. So for that, we want to use the send web request action. To learn how to construct this web request, we can consult with the Better DevOps documentation and just see the configuration guide for running a Bamboo build with a specific command. So we already selected the send web request action, and we need this webhook URL in our rule. So we can just copy that over. As you can see, there are a few parts of this URL that are just placeholders. So we need the Bamboo server base URL and the project key and the Bamboo plan key at the end of the URL. So to learn those, we need to pull up Bamboo for that. Select the right plan that you want to use. And just to get started, I copy the base URL over. And at the end of the Bamboo URL, I have the project key and plan keys. So I want to hardwire both into my rule here. All right, we've done that. As the next step, we need to add a new header called authorization. Copy that over. And the value should be the base64 encoded version of your Bamboo username and password. So mine in the task system is just admin, which is exactly what it's encoded here in documentation, but you need to create your own. If you don't know how to do that, you can use this online form that you can access right from the documentation here. Okay, so I just paste that here. We need to add another header, which will be called content length. Just making sure that is correct. And the value is 0 there. The HTTP method to use is post. So we can save that, give the rule name, just turn it on, and let's give it a try. Let's say I have a few changes in the same repository as before. Let's just add everything and create a commit very quickly. Just for the sake of the example. And now I want to use the build command to run the Bamboo build when the commit is pushed to the server. Let's hop over to Bamboo and see what happens. This build should be started momentarily. Yep, and there we go. The Bamboo build has started and ran, triggered by the add build command in the commit message. So again, this is just a simplified rule of running a Bamboo build automatically. You can always make that more complex with parameters. Or you might be thinking, why would I want to use a command at all to run a Bamboo build after every commit, where we always run a build after every commit. So just think about the options for flexibility here. There might be a build plan that runs for a very long time and it's very expensive, and you don't actually want to run that after every commit. You want to leave that up to the developer to decide if they want to run that build or not, or make it more optional. You can achieve all that with commands and with customizable parameters with your commands. So this is how Better DevOps Automation is more powerful, more flexible, and gives you more options to decide what you want to do after every commit and how you want to structure your DevOps workflow. So I encourage you to download Better Commit Policy and DevOps Automation and just get started with your first automation rule to experience yourself how easy it is. And I leave you to it very soon. But before we wrap up, I want to give you a few hints about what's coming to Better DevOps Automation soon. We will continue to improve the app, and for example, we already plan to add more triggers, namely pull request created and pull request merged. And we won't stop there. We have tons of ideas what to automate, but we are also interested to hear your ideas and your use cases. So here's the deal. Tell us your suggestion for DevOps triggers or actions in the comments below the video. We will consider those And if realistic, we will add those triggers to the production app or create custom scripts for those and include them in the documentation for everyone to use. So don't hesitate, leave a comment below the video right now. And with that, I thank you for your attention today. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss important announcements about our apps or upcoming webinars. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email directly. And as mentioned, don't forget to get better commit policy as well. And if you're on the market for professional Excel or PDF exports or reports from your Jira data, try our other apps too. Thanks again and see you next time.